Frank Yosa here, CEO of Ketone Ester. I've also got Steve Zarpas on the phone, and we have Bill here. This is our first non-professional athlete, I think, that we've interviewed. And how did he get one? Well, we put a post, a request for people that had connections to influencers, and basically made a trade. So you can try one and, get us to this, famous person. And so, Bill, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Bill Simeone. I am anything but a professional athlete, and needless to say, I had great influence in this particular product. And I think I contacted you, Frank, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and I've been following your progress. I was fortunate enough to receive a few samples from you maybe 2 weeks ago or so, and I had the opportunity to try one yesterday.
45 mLs. That was really, 22.5 grams of ester. Okay. So less than half of a serving.
Yep, and it was pretty dramatic. Now, I mean, mind you, I'm already, in ketosis, but I immediately felt the smoothest energy I've certainly ever felt in my life. And I think I told you before, I have tried most everything recently. I've been real impressed with the vast majority of everything that I've tried. I've enjoyed it very much, but this is just a different energy altogether.
When you say other things, you mean like other nootropics, or are you talking about ketone salts, all the salts in particular?
My apologies, ketone salts. So I have tried as many as, most likely 6, 7, 8 of them. Everything from Biomax, which I like, to Keto Blitz, to Ketogenics, and you name it, I probably tried it. NutriCost, which is probably the low cost option. But I've tried the vast majority of the product, and this obviously was just I don't know the appropriate word, but a far more efficient delivery of the energy and a smoother energy. I took it at about 2 o'clock yesterday, and I went and played golf at about 3 o'clock. And the feeling I had just prior to playing was that I was maybe a little too amped up to play golf, quite honestly. And I was pleasantly surprised that I had zero jitters whatsoever. It was just it was a smooth experience. I'm 53 years old, and I don't play a whole lot of golf, although I did play a lot of golf up until about 10 years ago. And I happen to be in the golf business as well, and I might play, a few times a year these days. One thing that happens to a lot of golfers as you age is you lose your putting stroke a bit. Your nerves degrade somehow, some way. And the first thing that I noticed as I was playing, the first benefit was that my putting stroke had come back, and that was pretty interesting. I certainly did not expect that. From a playability perspective, it was I definitely was just I don't know exactly how to put it, but I was just hitting the ball a little better, and I was focused, and I played very well, and I was very pleased with the experience.
Did you test your ketones on the way? It wasn't needed, but
I didn't. I have the strips in my office, and I did test them soon after taking it, and my strips aren't not the highest grade, and I have promised myself after yesterday that I'll be doing I'll be pricking my finger and doing the blood tests.
Right.
But I still have, based upon what I took yesterday, I guess I probably still have two units of that, because I probably took about, maybe a little more than a third yesterday.
Right. Your volume keeps on going up and down. Is there maybe some sort of, maybe your Wi-Fi connection is catching? Any idea why it might be going?
I'm not noticing it, Frank.
Okay.
Sounds pretty level on my end.
Okay. All right. So it's hard to quantify with something like golf, especially if you don't play it professionally and on a day-to-day basis. So how do you know that it wasn't just a placebo?
I don't need it.
Actually, let's go back for a second. That is very quantifiable, the loss of the putting stroke, because as we age, we become cognitively impaired, and the brain takes up the ketones as rapidly as any other tissue, and the focus and the touch to be able to putt well and see your line is pretty huge. So I think that's quantifiable.
Well, that was the biggest surprise, and that's something that I haven't felt in a long time. It's very difficult for me to putt a golf ball, and it certainly was not yesterday. So that was a very, very pleasant surprise, it to me it provided a feeling of well-being that I just hadn't quite had in a very long time, and that is a very, very large part of golf, as you may or may not know. Just the your mental well-being, your confidence, and
Yeah.
and whatnot. And when you can do things that you haven't been able to do for roughly 10 years, that's a real interesting feeling. I was blown away by that, quite honestly. And needless to say, the very fact that I had used a portion of what you had given was even more telling. That
Right.
was something that was fascinating to me. So I was more than impressed. I don't know how this might help the younger golfers out there, but I can guarantee you one thing: any of those golfers out there 50 plus, this will be pretty dramatic for them. It's certainly my guess, if they're anything like myself.
Well, we also have to try it on a over 50 golfer that is not in ketosis. So that's where it might actually be even larger leap, because your brain is already being fueled. Even just the tiniest amount of ketones is just night and day difference versus someone who just hasn't experienced that fuel. They're only doing glucose.
Yeah.
So, it might be even more profound for them.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. And, once again, it is a bit, it's somewhat difficult to explain, but it is a spiritual endeavor as well. When you take that, your spirits come up, you feel better about yourself, and that's actually a big part of golf, especially at the higher levels, at the more competitive levels. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. I will have it in the hands of a PGA professional shortly. I say the one serving for him. When I say PGA professional, that is not to say one who plays on the tour, quite honestly, but is someone who's a designated professional.
Yeah. Okay.
My friend Elias in the corner.
All right. Well, Steve, any other questions for the interview?
Yeah, how was your drive? Did you get any distance? Did the other players notice an improvement in your game?
They didn't. I didn't want to tell them. I didn't want to put that pressure on. I thought that might kind of throw things off a little bit if I'm out there saying, look, here's an experiment. It's me. I told them afterwards, and they, needless to say, they'll probably be demanding some.
Did they notice it? Did they say anything like, "Oh, I was wondering what was up with your, putt or game"?
No, they were impressed. They knew I played well, and it did afterwards. They certainly said, "Oh, okay." But I think at the end of the day, it's something that it was noticeable with 2020 hindsight. So,
speaking of 2020, how's your vision? Do you wear glasses when you golf?
I don't. I had LASIK 19 years ago, and it somehow, some way, it's held up, rather nicely. I did notice as just after taking it, as I looked out, things certainly looked. I think things crystallized somehow, some way. The whole HD thing did come in a bit for me.
And how was the taste? What was your thought on that? Did you follow protocol and chase it with water afterward?
I obviously have an odd sense of taste. I think I had smelled it before, and I told you that. It did not bother me one single bit. I had soda water at my side, and I downed it, but I didn't need it at all. It has a very, to me, you described it as burnt tires. to me, it's more like burnt cappuccino.
Okay.
And there's definitely a bit of a funky aftertaste there, but it just wasn't bad at all to me, at all. I mean,
It wouldn't keep you from taking it daily?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think, quite honestly, based upon the what I experienced, if it did have that real burnt tire, if it was legitimately like sipping on something absolutely horrifically bad, it wouldn't faze me either, because it was an experience. So it was once again, I've been working with the ketone salts for quite a while now. When I say working with, obviously, testing and using, I'm going to say since January of this year. So about 3/4 of a year, or 2/3 of a year. And I am very much in favor of them. I think they're spectacular, but this is a whole nother level.
So you've done a lot of research, a lot of, dozens of podcasts, and you've already taken the deep dive, which is another reason why I sent you one. So you had a pretty high level of expectation. How did it compare to what your expectation of it was? Was anything a little bit different, like the type of energy, or what did you think in terms of that?
I was not expecting the energy to be as smooth as it was. So I was expecting a bit more of a freight train thing. It was going to come on and I was going to say, oh boy, here it is. It really, I did not have that like real amped up feeling per se. It was there and I didn't even know it at first.
Right.
And, I just felt real, it was just it was a great feeling.
Great.
Oh, one more question. What about on the cognitive side? How about your club selection? Did you notice that you were choosing the right club because you were cognitively on your game?
I mean, that's pretty straightforward stuff. I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I think to really kind of, I think I was probably more level-headed than I generally am as I played. So it was nothing fazed me, and it realistically, I think from a cognitive perspective, and now that you ask that question, I was probably reading my putts better as well.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and we'll talk later about what you can do with that last 2/3, and maybe change it up to another sport or whatnot.
You're welcome. Best of luck, and congratulations on this.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right.
So let me ask you one last question. Back to the placebo. How do you know it's not a placebo effect?
Well, I'll just say quickly, this transcends placebo. There is zero chance placebo has anything to do with this, Frank. The spiritual feeling, the energy you get. I hope it was placebo, because if it was, my brain's a whole lot more powerful than I ever imagined. There is zero chance it was placebo.
All right. Thank you.